Today we're going to be going over some premium, high-quality, cooler weather scents that you should not miss. Some of these are a little bit newer, some of these are a little bit older, but I think a lot of these could sometimes fall into the category of you might overlook them a little bit. Whether that be because you think it might just be overhyped, or maybe you just haven't really given that much thought to it. Maybe they're not as hyped up as some other new releases. A lot of different reasons, but these aren't your usual high on the list popular releases necessarily, but they are really, really good and definitely worth checking out. Things are really cooling off. Now is the time to be building up your cooler weather collection and just kind of trying to get that ready to go, because if you start waiting too long, some of these could sell out. You could be paying too much for them versus normal discount prices. So I will link all of these down below. We're going to get things kicked off with Tumi Continuum. So this is a giant 200 ml bottle. Probably not going to be necessary for most of us, right? Definitely not me. But it was a good deal, and I just kind of wanted to see what these look like in person. And they are quite big and really heavy. You still get that metal cap up top. Really cool system with how these work. Nice detail. Something that you don't see every day. It's got tobacco, suede, amber. It's a fantastic, cool weather, smoky, seductive, rich tobacco. It smells amazing, and it's still, of course, very designer level, very wearable, very easy to pull off. It's not super earthy or super strong or intimidating. You know, it's something that pretty much anybody could enjoy, whether that be the person wearing it and also people around you. This is the type of thing that when you throw this on, it's immediately going to make you stand out in a good way. There are a ton of tobacco scents out there, but sometimes, you know, they can kind of run together. Other times, like this one, they could stand out and do things a little bit differently. The nice thing about these Tumi fragrances is that they've been hitting discounters. You know, when they first started coming out with these, retail was your only way to go. And so I was buying them at full retail at Macy's, and that was your only option. And now they're hitting pretty much all the major discounters, and they're coming in at a really good price. You know, I think, I don't know, depending on where you're at, $50, maybe $60 for your standard 100 ml. Not sure what these 200s are going for, but again, most of you probably aren't going to be shopping for this size. But I think if you do want something that stands out and is a little bit of a different take on tobacco, this is it. And the price point that it now comes in at is unbeatable. We're going to go for a brand new release up next. This is from a designer brand that has just been on fire, putting out a new release pretty much every year so far. And all of them have been really good. They haven't had a miss yet, in my opinion. It's Lom Eau de Parfum Suave. So this one just came out, and so I already did, it was a first impressions video of it. We've got samples up on our website. If you wanted to check this one out, we'd be happy to help you out there. If you wanted to try before you buy, because given the new nature of this, it's not on discounters yet. Probably not going to be there for at least another month or two, and when it does hit, the price probably won't be as low as a lot of the others, given that it's new. It's got pink pepper, leather, amber, got some cardamom in here as well. It's not at all what I was expecting, primarily because it is nothing like any of the others that we've had so far. Now, when you go from the Eau de Parfum to the Eau de Parfum Intense, Eclat, and then Essentiel, of course they're all different, right? Otherwise, it just wouldn't make sense to put them out. For the most part, they all kind of tie back to each other in one way or another, sometimes more, sometimes less. But this one is by far, at least in my opinion, the furthest from all of the pre-existing releases. And so it just took me off guard. But I do like it, and I do think, especially for fall and winter time, it is a really, really nice, classy, sophisticated, woody, spicy scent. Because you do get the peppers, the cardamom, but then a leathery, ambery, and woody undertone as well. It's not necessarily sweet, you know, like you might get from Tumi Continuum or a number of other fragrances for cooler weather. But it's more or less just kind of woody and spicy, and it kind of would be, I guess, more of a fall scent in my mind, because it lacks the sweetness and the real punch and power behind what I like out of a lot of my winter scents. So now would be a good time of year to wear this one. Now let's move over to Kilian Apple Brandy on the Rocks. This is based off of one of my favorite fragrances from Kilian, and that is Apple Brandy. You know, just the OG one and the normal 50 ml, and now I guess they're making 100 ml Kilian bottles. One of my favorites. I can still remember where I smelled that was, and it was from a sample that I got, and it was a small little like 2 ml, right? Hardly anything, but it was just enough to try it. My mind was blown. This was back really kind of when I was first starting out, after maybe only being in this hobby for a year or two, and I just had smelled nothing like it before. The quality, the uniqueness, the blend was just next level, and so there's just something about this stuff. I don't know. Now, they came out with Apple Brandy on the Rocks a few years ago, and to me, really, it's just a little bit lighter and slightly fresher than the original. So this one has apple, rum, and brandy. No surprise there. But really, when you smell this and then you put it up against the original, you can notice that this one doesn't quite have the same heaviness to it that the original does, which to me is kind of okay in the fact that some might think the original is a bit too much. It is very sweet, very syrupy, very heavy, very, very boozy, and very rich. I mean, it isn't for the faint of heart. This one does take a little bit more of a mainstream approach, I guess is what you could say. It's just kind of, and I don't want to say diluting the scent because that's probably an unfair representation, but it's just stripping it back a little bit. And I think a lot more people would find that they could get along with this easier. And so that's kind of why it's in the video. I would still choose the original over this. That would be my preference, but I think this one is probably the better and safer option if you were to just dive right in. Let's go back over to a designer. We have Spice Bomb Infrared Eau de Parfum. Has a really nice chili pepper note, I believe is what it is, along with cinnamon, pink pepper, and some resins in here. I love it. And I kind of knew this was going to be coming because they came out with Spice Bomb Infrared Eau de Toilette, and obviously they are on the flanker bandwagon, and so I figured it would only make sense to put out an EDP, and I would imagine that we would expect an Elixir or a Parfum at some point, and I wish that they would do that rather than put more time into the night visions, which I don't really think are as good. I would say most times you could pass on the night visions, and you'd be better off buying Spice Bomb Extreme, Infrared Eau de Parfum, maybe even the original Infrared. I think those are better. Unfortunately, my bottle's broken. I dropped it, and the atomizer doesn't atomize. It just shoots a very darting stream. I would show you, but you wouldn't even be able to see it, and it makes a mess. But I mean, really, I guess I will show you. It doesn't work. Yeah, that's what it does. So, you know, it actually makes it a little bit harder to smell because it doesn't atomize it, so it's like alcohol blast at first. But I can still get the general idea, and I still do love it. I need to rebuy it so that way I can focus on it and wear it as I used to be able to, but this is, in my opinion, a lot better than the Eau de Toilette of Infrared. And isn't going to be as good as Spice Bomb Extreme. I don't think anything is going to top that one. I think that is just kind of the peak of the line, but this is a really good release. And I think it's best suited probably for fall. And of course, you can wear it into winter. There's just something about this one that kind of gives off a fall, you know, autumn, leaves changing, hoodie weather, you know, not too cold, but also not warm out necessarily. And then Spice Bomb Extreme has more of a holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's smell to it. So that's kind of how they fit in my opinion, but I really like this one a lot. Okay, we're gonna go back over to a niche scent here. It's kind of expensive, but worth the investment. It's Parfums de Marly Carile. It's got vanilla, patchouli, tonka bean, and nutmeg. I absolutely love this stuff. This was another mistake on my end where I waited too long. That's the truth of it. When I started getting into Parfums de Marly's, I think I bought, I don't know, I think it was probably Leighton and then Percival first. I can't remember. I bought like 2 at once. I'm like, okay, if I never start buying these, I'm never going to get them. And they were being talked about and very popular. So I just bought a couple. I'm like, okay, let's get this started. I think those were 2 of the most popular at the time. And then, of course, Sedley, Greenlee, and so on, Herod, all that stuff came after. Some of those new releases, obviously, that I got after starting collecting PDM. But, you know, I started somewhere around there. Carile was one of the last ones I ended up picking up. And a lot of that was due to the cost. I mean, this one historically has always been a bit more expensive than Leighton, Sedley, Percival, Herod, Godolphin, Pegasus, all of that. It's just a little bit more premium. And it costs more at retail, I believe, and it typically costs a little bit more at discounters as well. Now, sometimes when they're running sales, they get pretty close. And so you're not paying a ton more for this, but still more. And so I put it off, and I wish I wouldn't have, because this has become one of my favorites. If I had to choose, only a couple PDMs, I would probably choose Leighton and Carile. And honestly, Altair might be right behind them. And so I like this one, and it reminds me a little bit, and you'll see this comparison of like a less oody and tobacco heavy red tobacco by Mancera. It kind of smells a little bit like that. If you smelled Carolina Herrera mystery tobacco, has a little bit of that going on as well, but it just doesn't have the super strong, stringent red tobacco, and it also doesn't have the oud that exists in the Mancera. It's kind of like a hybrid between the two almost, somewhere along there. So I really like it. I love the vanilla patchouli combo. It smells incredible. Again, it's expensive, but it's beast mode. It has great quality, and it is pretty unique. Okay, we're gonna go with an OG up next. I mean, this is a true classic. They have built so many other flankers after this and built upon this, but sometimes it's good to go back to the OG. It works, and it's not a true OG necessarily, but it'll make sense. Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum. I mean, it's just, we have Eau de Parfum Reserve Privé, probably the best in the line. We have Eau de Parfum Boisé, really good. And all of those, right? But this one, it's amazing. It's got vanilla, a lot of vanilla, quite a bit of iris and some black pepper as well. This kind of came out right around the time that iris was just popping off, and the original Gentleman EDT, the 2017 version, has iris in it too. But this one focuses on it more, and it's a sweeter approach to iris, kind of like Dior Homme Intense, Valentino Uomo Intense, which typically this gets lumped in with those when it's being brought up. This is by far the most designer level, the most wearable, and it focuses more on vanilla than the other two. And it's also going to be typically a little bit more affordable. It used to be $50 all day long on discounters. That's not the case anymore, but I still think you're looking at like 70 or something, still relatively affordable in the grand scheme of things. Really like this one for fall, winter, really any time when it's a bit cool out. It's a great date night, evening, cozy scent. Invictus Victory Elixir. I love this stuff so much. Man, it's probably, at least in terms of end production, one of the best Invictus flankers out right now. It's that good. They did a great job here. It's an Elixir, but it's not necessarily Elixir priced. I mean, on discounters, it's typically right around 100, sometimes testers for a bit less. It's got vanilla, lavender, and incense in here too. So kind of see a trend, seeing a lot of vanilla in this video because I like it, and it works well in a lot of cooler weather scents. And this one is no exception as well. It's going to be a little bit more mainstream and bubblegummy and designer-ish and just built for compliments more or less, whereas some of these are maybe less of a focus on that, but of course they can still provide you with compliments. This is going to be more or less like built for that. It's a Paco Rabanne, and just of course a step further, it's an Invictus. That's kind of what these are all about, to smell good to as many people as possible, and this does that. We'll finish this video with Lom Eau de Parfum. This is an amazing, in my opinion, kind of easily forgotten about flanker. I mean, there are a ton of them, right? But you just don't see a ton about the Eau de Parfum. It's got bitter orange, cognac, and oak in here, so it's still building on the original Eau de Toilette, but it has kind of a boozy, woody sweetness that wasn't there in the same way in the original. So it's kind of where this one falls. It's going to be a little bit more cooler weather focused, where I found that the original Lom was more or less, in between, more or less a signature. It could work good on a warm summer day. It would work good on a cooler winter day as well. It was a very neutral scent pretty much through and through. I think this one leans more in one direction, being the cooler times of the year. It's not a cheapie, right? But it also isn't overpriced either. Anywhere from $80 to $90 or so. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some fantastic high quality and premium releases that smell great for the cooler weather. Again, some of these you might skip, you might miss, but I don't want you to. You should really give some of these a try. So I will link all these down below to discounters, and if you're wanting to try before you buy, you want to find your next signature scent without breaking the bank because everything is getting so expensive, I want to help you with that. You can head on over to our website, decantcenter.com. We have a growing selection of designer and niche fragrances that you can sample in various sizes, and some of them you can even purchase a full bottle from us at really competitive prices. We got free shipping over $49, a great rewards program. You get a free sample with every order. So really, I mean, no reason not to shop with us. We have some of the best prices around too, by a measurable amount. If you go do some price shopping and comparing of pricing, you might be surprised. Give us a try. We promise you'll love us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.